Hello, Professor Chan and the faculty of the School of Accountancy. We are Group 10. I'm Judy.
And my name is John Jamal Richards. We will be presenting our answers for the American Guitar Case project. So, do we recommend American Guitar to keep its current cost accounting system or to implement the standard costing system, and why? We define standard costing as a carefully determined or expected cost used in manufacturing companies like American Guitar for accounting for inventories and production. And basically, when compared against the actual costs, variances arise. These variances are valuable management tools. I will go over these variances later in the presentation. With that said, our group found it best for American Guitar to implement standard costing for several reasons. As I have previously mentioned, the use of standard cost is a great management tool. More specifically, it is a key element in the management by exception approach. If costs, for instance, remain within the standards, managers at American Guitar can focus on other issues. On the other hand, when costs fall significantly outside the standards, managers are alerted that there may be problems requiring some attention. This approach helps managers focus on important issues. In addition, with the implementation of standard costs, bookkeeping can be significantly simplified. Instead of recording actual costs for each job, the standard costs for labor, direct materials, and overhead can be charged to jobs. On another note, challenging standards that are viewed as reasonable by employees can increase motivation, which can in turn increase performance. Since these standards are great benchmarks that employees can use to judge their own performance. All in all, standard costs fit naturally in an integrated system of responsibly accounting fitting for a manufacturing company like American Guitar. The standards establish what costs should be, who should be responsible for them, and what actual costs are under control. There are disadvantages with implementing standard costing. These advantages could be the same reasons as to why American Guitar would decide to keep its current accounting system. Well, one reason could be cost. The investigation of standard cost variances is a costly activity. Management must carefully decide which variances to investigate. As I previously mentioned, most managers practice management by exceptions for such cases, but what exactly are exceptional? Well, American Guitar managers might use the absolute dollar amount or a percentage dollar amount. Furthermore, if American Guitar managers are insensitive in the way they use these variance reports, morale may suffer, and therefore, performance and efficiency might decrease. Its hired personnel may be tempted to cover up unfavorable variances or take actions that are not in the best interest of the company to make sure the variances are favorable. An example of this is that a worker might put on a crash effort to increase output at the end of the month to avoid unfavorable labor efficiency variance. The outcome of this is that quality may suffer in the rush to produce output, which again can increase frustration and hurt performance. To avoid such issue, American Guitar managers and supervisors would need to give positive reinforcement for work well done. Management by exception by its nature tends to focus on the negatives. And another reason why American Guitar managers might find it best to avoid standard costing systems is that the information in the variance reports may be so stale that it is almost useless, since these reports are usually prepared on a monthly basis and often are released days or even weeks after month or period end. If this is the case, timely, frequent reports that are approximately correct are better than infrequent reports that are very precise but out of date by the time they are released. In order to avoid such a situation, American Guitar managers should report variances in other key operating data more frequently. On another note, other important objectives such as customer satisfaction, on-time delivery, and maintaining and improving quality might be overlooked or underemphasized, as there may be a tendency with standard cost reporting systems to emphasize meeting solely these standards. This tendency can be reduced if the managers do decide to implement standard costing by using supplemental performance measures that focus on these other objectives. And finally, the managers at American Guitar might find it insufficient to just meet these standards. Given the current competitive environment, American Guitar Company might find it necessary to continually improve in order for the sake of survival. And for this reason, some companies focus on the trends in the standard cost variances, aiming for continual improvement rather than just meeting the standard.
And now I will be explaining the interpretation and possible interaction between the important variances and how they were calculated by the standard costing.
Again, a variance arises when standard cost compared to actual costs differs. If actual costs are greater than standard costs, the variance is unfavorable. An unfavorable variance tells management that if everything else stays constant, the company's actual profit will be less than planned. And on the other hand, if actual costs are less than standard cost, the variance is favorable. A favorable variance tells management that if everything else stays constant, the actual profit will likely exceed the planned profit. For direct material, we had the materials price variance and the materials quantity variance. And for direct labor, we have the labor rate or price variance and the labor efficiency or quantity variance. Finally, for overhead, we have the overhead volume variance and the controllable overhead variance. Judy and I decided to analyze the unfavorable labor efficiency variance and the favorable direct materials price variance, as these variances relate to the other variances. Through our variance analysis, we found that there is an unfavorable labor efficiency variance. This means that the direct labor is not efficient at producing the guitars. That inefficiency will likely cause additional variable manufacturing overhead, resulting in an unfavorable variable manufacturing overhead efficiency variance. And if these inefficiencies are significant, it is possible that American Guitar Company may not be able to produce enough good output to absorb the planned fixed manufacturing overhead, resulting in an unfavorable fixed manufacturing overhead volume variance. Additionally, labor efficiency variances make two assumptions. First, they assume that the production process is labor-paced. If labor works faster, output will go up. However, output in many companies is no longer determined by how fast labor works. Rather, it is determined by the processing speed of these guitar-making machines. Second, the computations assume that labor is a variable cost. However, direct labor may be essentially fixed. Then, an undue emphasis on labor efficiency variances creates pressure to build excess work in process and also finished goods inventories. Before discussing the next variance, we wanted to note the fact that a variance is favorable does not mean that it should not be investigated. Direct materials or raw materials are good examples of this, especially considering the competitive pricing environments for most commodities like wood, if relating it to American Guitar. In order to explain this better, I will analyze the favorable direct materials price variance found during our standard costing. So let's relate this to the quality of the beginner's guitar upbeing, which is slightly lower than the quality of the professional guitar. This lesser quality guitar can cause the production to be a bit slower as workers spend additional time working around flaws in the material. In addition to this decline in productivity, employees will also find that some of the outcome of the production is of such poor quality that it has to be discarded. Furthermore, some of the finished guitars don't pass the final inspection due to occasional defects not detected as the guitar was made. So basically, the favorable price variance of the materials used for beginner guitar would have no bargain as it correlates with lower quality. The favorable variance may be more than offset by the following unfavorable quantity variances, including direct material usage variances, direct labor efficiency variances, variable manufacturing overhead efficiency variances. Managers at American Guitars should keep in mind that the standard cost is the cost allowed on the good output, putting material, labor, and manufacturing overhead costs into products that will not end up as good output will likely result in unfavorable variances. To conclude the answer to this question, it is important to be cautious of standard cost variances because they are not the definitive sign of good or bad performance. These variances are merely indicators of potential problems which must be investigated. And there are many plausible explanations for them as we have discussed throughout Dr. Chan's class. I will now be passing it on to Judy to evaluate American Guitar Company's performance for July and to make recommendations regarding its strategy.
Finally, we have written a memo to evaluate American Guitar Company's performance for July and to make recommendations regarding its strategy.
July performance. We have just evaluated sales for the month of July. Through our assessment, we have found that sales for July of this year have increased as compared to 2012. However, they still do not match July sales from 2009 to 2011. Overall, sales have remained fairly consistent in company records. Strategy. Though your company's performance has remained consistent for the past 5 years and is in line with average sales in the guitar industry, we believe that American Guitar Company can do better. It is time to reevaluate company strategy and develop a new strategic plan that will help the business surpass its competitors and gain more market share. We have come up with a few ways that can help American Guitar Company take this first step towards a more successful future. A crucial step to fine-tuning company strategy is to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the company. Through our analysis of the company's business process, we have found that American Guitar Company is much more efficient in the manufacturing of their beginner model guitars as compared to their professional models. If American Guitar Company cannot find ways to improve the manufacturing process of their professional guitars, it should reconsider this product line. Of course, before taking any significant actions, in-depth research and evaluations should be made. In analyzing American Guitar Company's business, we have also found that the company is not operating within its full annual practical capacity. Unused capacity is inefficient and should be eliminated or filled by other activities. Lastly, American Guitar Company currently has no marketing strategy. We recommend that the company invest in a marketing plan if it wishes to be more successful in this industry. Though marketing can be an expensive expenditure, with the right marketing campaign, the benefits will outweigh the cost in the long run.
And this concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much, Professor Chan, for a great semester.